had to do it twice because I forgot to rewind it. Son of a bitch.
All right, man. I love that. That was cool.
That is cool.
It's really cool.
Definitely got to get you that when you start doing these things.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So welcome anyone that is listening or anybody that will tune in later. Adam and Scott tonight. Lindsay is over doing her own thing. It's got something cool. So
I think we're dragging her down. She's getting a little too famous for us.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice to be friends for a while, and we're just back to being us again.
Maybe she'll remember the little guys.
Yeah, hopefully Christmas time or something. At least get a card. That would be fantastic. But we'll miss you, Lindsay. It was nice while it lasted.
I'm gonna send this to her when we get done.
Yeah. So I got this labeled as an open chat, and that's kind of like what I would like it to be. Just if you're listening or have listened to us before and you're thinking of something that you would like to talk about, just throw it in the comment, whether on Facebook, YouTube, or X. Just throw it in the comment section, and we'll give you our opinion. Whether you valued it or not, we'll give it to you anyway, because that's why we're here.
Yeah. Do one thing, help us out. So if you're watching this live, just put in the chat live, and then if you see this again on replay, just say replay, so that way we know we can kind of tailor some content to that.
Great idea.
Yeah, just give us a heads up.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. So before we went live, we were talking about a couple studies that we thought were interesting. The one study that I looked at recently, I'm not sure if it has an actual name, but I'm going to call it the invisible lid experiment. And that experiment is where in the laboratory, they put a bunch of fleas. I don't know the number. Okay, there was a fair amount of fleas they put in this jar. And they left the lid off for a little while, and the fleas obviously were jumping out. Then they put the lid on the jar with the fleas still in it, and they left them there for a few days. And the fleas, they were jumping up, and they'd hit the lid, and they hit the lid. Eventually, they removed the lid. And what the fleas did is they had learned in just a few days that they couldn't jump higher than what the lid was.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't jump that high anymore. And what's even more incredible, I think, with this study is that when they reproduced in that jar, their offspring also would not jump higher than what the previous fleas, the adult fleas, had been doing, or the relatives, however you want to word that. I don't know how long fleas live, but what they learned, their group think, their group behavior, kept them under an invisible lid.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that as well. It's a great example of how self-limiting beliefs truly become actual limits. I think when we talk about some of that stuff a lot, it's kind of very, like, in theory, we talk about, all these self-limiting beliefs you might have, and you got to go find those and get rid of them and blah, blah, blah. But it truly, they are preventing you from doing things that you don't realize you can do because you don't even know to believe that it's possible.
Yeah. And I mean, how many areas of our lives did we put that in, especially like in addiction,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to kind of go with this, okay, so now you have an example, and I know they're fleas, but it still can work with humans, when these things are taught, and learned behaviors in this groupthink. Adam brought up another experiment that I thought was really good. I'll have him explain that because I think that's pretty incredible too. And then we can combine that kind of these two experiments and kind of talk about, how we think that groupthink really affects us, positively and negatively.
Yeah,
Tell us about the
similar type of scenario, and I don't know the name of it. I'd have to dig through Google to find the actual study, but it was a behavior-based study, and the study had a bunch of monkeys in a habitat, and if I'm remembering correctly, they had put a treat, we'll call it a banana, something like that, over at an elevated position, up in a tree on a shelf, something. And so, of course, all the monkeys, they want the treat. Well, the scientists, as they would go to climb up whatever it was to get it would, shock them, give them a little bit of pain to prevent them from getting the treat. And so eventually, over time, all the monkeys learned that you can't go get that treat because you're going to get shocked every time you do. And so then what they would do is they would take and introduce a new monkey to the community that had no idea about the shocks. And he would want to get the treat, but instead of even being able to attempt to climb up there, the other monkeys would pull him down and like literally beat him up. And so Scott and I were laughing about this because this stood out to me because I remember him saying, basically beat the shit out of these new monkeys as they came in. Scott, the detail that I forgot was that they did this study twice. The first one, they would shock the monkeys that were climbing up to get the treat. And so eventually they all learned. They repeated this study, but as the monkey would try to climb up, they would shock all the other monkeys.
Oh, yes.
So I forgot about that one, and it came to me as I was telling that story. But both are examples of reinforced behavior that end up creating a groupthink dynamic of, this is the group belief, and the group is not going to let you get outside of what the group believes, the status quo.
Right.
So a little bit higher intelligence life form there over the fleas, but it's crazy that the same thing happens down at like a flea.
Yeah.
Because there's not a ton of processing power there other than just innate survival.
Yeah.
And the fact that, they learn, hey, well, I can't jump 12 inches anymore. I can only jump 7 inches. And then as soon as you remove that barrier, well, I can still only jump 7 inches. I mean, that just blows my mind.
It's incredible. It's incredible that they can learn that. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I'm saying. It not a lot of processing power in a flea. And I don't even, I'm by no means a bug expert, but I know like with ants and stuff, they communicate via pheromones, and really ants don't have brains other than the fact to do exactly what they're told by the queen. So I don't know if fleas are like that or if they're independent or not, but it's just insane that, tiny little animal.
Yeah, and they're teaching their offspring to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a quick Google search. It was in 1966. It was called the 5-monkey experiment.
There you go.
Right. So they introduced, I think, one monkey, and then he learned. Then they introduced another monkey, and then he wouldn't. I'm just guessing here. And eventually, the monkey wouldn't even have a chance to go up there because, like, the first one was the one that got zapped, and he taught all the other ones, no, you can't do that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, no, let me rephrase that. I know in the recovery community, we have a lot of groupthink. And I know that we have a lot of people that are like, no, you can't do it that way.
Yeah.
Despite of the evidence that there's other ways to do things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, I felt like a flea in a jar with an invisible lid at some point, because I thought, well, this is dumb. I don't see anything, I don't understand why, because this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, nope, here's the lid. You can't. And that just made things harder. Like I wanted to go get the damn banana.
Yeah.
And other people were like, if you go get that banana, you're going to fail and die. That's actually what I was told. You're going to die.
It's so funny, that we're talking about this because, one of the big things of being in the rooms is, find the similarities, don't focus on the differences, find the similarities. Yeah. And I had the exact same experience as you, but with a completely different context with 12 steps. Exact same experience of you can't know, that's not how we do it. You can't do it that way. It doesn't work that way. You can't do it that way. When you ask why, it's kind of like a beat down of, well, here's all the reasons why, and you just kind of get berated. But yeah, you're exactly right. And you use the perfect term all the time, gatekeeping. Mm-hmm. Exactly what it is. Except this time, instead of, keeping knowledge from you, it's preventing you from thinking for yourself.
Yeah.
Exploring.
Yeah. You who knows if we just, show compassion and, support, maybe if one of those monkeys would have said, I'm going to go get that thing. And one of the other monkeys would have said, I support you. I'll catch you if it does shock you and you fall.
Yeah.
And he would have climbed up there and grabbed that banana. And, if he would have listened, to the people telling him, don't do this, or you can't do this,
Yeah.
how long would he have struggled and sat there hungry? Yeah, I know it probably exaggerating things a little bit too much, but there is a correlation to it because I suffered that way. I didn't get the banana when I think I could have found the banana.
Yep. Absolutely agree. Yeah. That's, to continue to use that example, I basically said to hell with this and went and found my way out of the cage and went and did my own thing.
Yeah. And right here's two, there's evidence of two people right here that took what they needed, left the rest. You'll hear that somewhere. And then found some other things and added to it and are doing pretty decent with their lives right now.
Yeah. One of my all-time favorite quotes from Bruce Lee is, accept what is useful, reject what is useless, add that which is uniquely your own.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. RJ just said hello. RJ and I went to treatment together. My third treatment in Harbor Hall. RJ is putting together some serious recovery time.
Awesome.
You're at 2 years now, right, RJ? If you're still listening. This is another dude, and I hope I don't say too much, but this is another dude that comes in, looked like he could rip you to shreds. You know what I mean? But he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He was open and willing to share and be vulnerable and do all those things that you needed to do in recovery. And, he went to the treatment and, we're still friends on Facebook, and I get to see his progress and how well he's doing. And it's really amazing to see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love hearing that.
Yeah. I'm glad he checked in.
Cool.
Yeah, we've got other people watching, so don't be shy.
Cool. I was going to ask you with, I don't know what the difference in the settings are. I don't see the metrics.
Yeah. Well, I'm not 100% sure now. I mean, it says 8. Oh, right here. So we got all X people. Well, that's not true. It's lying to me because RJ was just here and it says 0 on Facebook. But yeah, everybody else is from X.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me share this real quick. Here they're rolling. Oh. Well, I can find it. There it is. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, what else? I mean, I could sit here and I know you and I could talk about that topic all day long with
Sure.
If we didn't feel like being nice.
Right.
Tell me, so you alluded to using that topic to talk about higher power as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you're going with it?
Yeah. Like, so I thought that kind of fit into the higher power thing too, because, the groupthink on that in the recovery community, I think. And when I say groupthink, I don't mean everybody.
Right.
But the majority of people, I feel like, think that there is got to be something that is greater than you that pulls you out of the depths of addiction.
Yeah.
And I said, let me bring up what I said in our DM there. And this was just going to be a topic. I said, what power is greater than yourself? And I continued, I would argue that there is none. You can literally create your own reality. And so when you can create your own reality, like these fleas in a jar created this lid that wasn't there, the monkeys, after the first one got shocked, created this reality that that's what happens every single time that you try this.
Yeah.
The group got together and made that. And so, and the reason why this is important to me is because I had a really hard time with the higher power thing, like an extremely hard time. And, I just kept getting told that you just need to surrender. in
Yeah.
treatment. And if RJ is listening still, in treatment, I was told you got to drop the rock, dude. And there's a book, by the way, you can go read Drop the Rock. I was told to go read that. I never did read it, but I understood what the message was by reading, things about the book. Where you just got to give up like all these questions that you have and just accept that there is something greater than you. And while that's what I wanted to do more than anything, like I'll be honest with you, like if I could find and I'm going to use God because that's what you use in the big book all the time. That's the word used. If I could find a God.
Yeah. Whether we're talking about the Christian capital God, or we're just talking about lowercase God.
Yeah.
I mean, God is the colloquial term for higher power. So
yeah, and like when I talk about that stuff, I always picture I have the poster actually at my grandma's. I need to get it, but the Fox Mulder X-Files. I want to believe. I do. I want to, and I've tried, and I've really tried that, and it just I can't. So that's why I've had to use the fellowship of AA to begin with, and then other connections to do that. But anyway, back to what I said. We can create our own reality. Okay. And our brains are far more powerful than a flea and a monkey. So we can really convince ourselves of some shit to be true that is not true.
yes.
Right. And so we create these realities for ourselves. And I just drew a blank. Go ahead, Adam. I just got lost. I just went.
Speaking of that, I had this thought the other night while we were talking, and Lindsay kept saying, "Oh, I just had another brain fart." I just went blank. It's like, I wonder if that's because we killed so many brain cells, or we're just getting older.
I think the answer to that question is yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like time to start taking some supplements or something. But back to the point, I love topics like this because I don't know. I mean, it gets me. I get fired up talking about this stuff because for me, finding spirituality and not religion by any means. Am I talking about religion? But when I talk about spirituality, I'm talking about finding my place, my path, my purpose, and then learning about how it's been done in the past in ancient cultures, mystical cultures, esotericism. I think I just find it fascinating, and I always have found it fascinating. I just never went down that path personally until recently. But with what you're saying about how the fleas and the monkeys both kind of created their own reality, one of the things that I've talked about all the time is how what you perceive is reality. I mean, those monkeys perceive the fact, they're watching somebody get shocked. So their perception is that banana is off limits. By no means that's, you are not allowed to go have that banana. That is the perception. You cannot get to it. And if you do, you're going to get hurt. So that's how they perceive their environment. Therefore, that is their reality. And the same thing with the fleas. They keep hitting the lid on the jar. So the perception is, well, that's as high as we can go. And so then as soon as you remove that boundary and say, hey, go ahead, you can go a little bit higher. Well, they believe that that's as high as they can go. That's what they perceive. So that is reality.
Right.
And just to me, that is like the logical answer to how we create our own realities, because I don't know how else to say it other than what you see and believe is what you create. And if you want to change what you see and believe so that you can create something, you go down that path. But personally, from a higher power standpoint, I think we're all part of a creator, one conscious. I think, we're all separate individuations of the creator. So therefore we are all creators in and of ourselves. And so I think that there is so much human potential that we don't even realize, because as a human race, we have perceived a reality where we are below and beneath this man in the sky with flowing white hair that we perceive as creator. I think we are all an individuation of the creator. So that's going to ruffle some feathers, but that's my belief. And you know what? The great thing about my beliefs is my beliefs don't require you to believe them.
Absolutely. I think that's really great, man. I think, yeah, but I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have read the Poetic Edda, and I've done some research on like Norse paganism and those things. I've done some research into the ancient Sumerians and their gods, Anunnaki or whatever.
Yep.
And the farther back you get, it seems that people believe that they were equals to gods, or they were just like the gods, but they were, the gods, the gods wanted the best for them, and they're like one and the same. They're just on a higher level of existence or whatever plane of whatever.
Yeah.
Like the Norse gods, they love to eat. They get married, they reproduce, they do all those things. The ancient Sumerians, they were just other beings that, if you look into that, Zecharia Sitchin's work, they even procreated with humans. You know what I mean? So there's all kinds of crazy shit. Anyway, but this is a fun topic. But I think we are more powerful than what we give ourselves credit for.
Yes.
I can think about times, when everybody talks about, we've heard the saying, I'm in the zone right now. Right? When you get into the zone, it's like you're connected at a higher level to your environment at that time. I felt that a lot in baseball. Like there were times literally when I would have the baseball in my hand on the mound and that team's best hitter would be up. And I would just feel it, that it's like, this dude is done. I'm taking him down in three, maybe 4 pitches, and it's over. And it would be. You know what I mean? And you can be in the zone playing blackjack at a casino table. You can be in the zone when you're painting or creating music. I think when you have that connection to your environment or nature, which I would prefer to be more nature, sitting on a winter's night, when I got out of treatment and then came home and had to go to jail for a while, and I was living with my grandmother and I didn't have a lot to do, and I was trying to continue my spirituality and to grow myself spiritually. I would wake up at 2:00 in the morning, not be able to sleep, and I'd get up in the freezing cold of Michigan, and I'd go outside. I'd gather some dry wood. I'd take a bunch of paper and kindling from inside that I could find, and I would start a fire and sit out there at 2:30 in the morning under the beautiful stars, clear night in the middle of winter, and I've never felt better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I was connected. I had the fire, the life-giving thing. Water's life-giving too, but. And under the stars and everything. That's where my spirituality. Somebody asked me that and made a comment today, like, how do you grow your spiritual condition? Well, that's how. It's not in a building. It's not teething. It's not, or tithing.
Tithing.
Toddlers do. Teething. Yeah, tithing. Not growing my teeth again.
Yeah. Right.
But no, those aren't the things that do that for me. And it might do that for you, and that's okay. That's like Adam said. You don't have to believe as we do.
Yep. There's the more I discover about my own personal beliefs and spirituality, the more I am accepting of everyone, which is just, I don't want to say it floors me or I'm surprised by it. I've always been a very open person. But I grew up believing that, this is the religion. All other religions are false. But it never really sat with me. It was like, well, that doesn't make sense, because if this is the religion and all other religions are false, but these people over here never had a chance to hear this religion, it doesn't work. So, I mean,
exactly.
Another rabbit hole to go down and talk about religion. But to get to your thing about being in the zone. Here's what I love about the zone or the flow state. There's a phenomenal book out there called Flow State, and I cannot pronounce the guy's name. It's like he's Russian or Serbian or something. It's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, but it's spelled like CZQ blah blah blah, kind of like the Duke coach Krzyzewski. But phenomenal book. He has quite a few. But I like this idea that so the flow state or being in the zone is when your ability is being tested by your environment and they're almost equal, but you have enough belief to overcome the environment.
Ooh.
You're being challenged. You're being challenged just higher than what you're comfortable at, but you believe that you can do it, and you can kind of get into this flow state, and everything else just goes away. You zone out into that focusing state, which I get. Like I find it like when I'm wood turning or something, I got something down there, but it does not take much to challenge my abilities on that one. But I believe I can do it, and so it's fun to get into it, and that's it's kind of where you develop skill. So.
Yeah. My fear, and why I like to talk about this so much, is that somebody else out there is struggling and thinking like we do, and
yeah,
the group think is so large, in number, that somebody out there might just need to hear this to have a breakthrough. And that sounds so conceited, but that's not it. I'm talking to the person out there that I wish I would have heard me say something like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know anything. I know what worked for me, and that's what we talk about. I don't think, you and I don't get on here and say, well, this is the right way to do it. I don't think we've ever said that one time, right? And I think that's very dangerous, because there is nothing shown that to have 100% accuracy in defeating addiction. So,
no, I don't think so.
Not even in the realm of that.
It just, yes. I mean, I completely agree with all of that. And I was thinking about this driving. I do a lot of driving with work, so I get lots of time to think about things. And I was thinking about how we get in this argument about what addiction is. I shouldn't say we, but just how there is an argument of what addiction is, and how I've defined it in the past. My current definition would be having some type of emotional trauma, some need to comfort yourself, combined with finding a substance or behavior that provides you extreme comfort that is physically depending, you can develop dependence on. It kind of combines this perfect storm. But where we get into these arguments is somebody wants a definition on addiction. And you posted something yesterday or the day before, which it kind of seems like the algorithm sends it around every 6 weeks or so, but it's people don't listen to listen, they listen to respond.
Yeah.
They're instead of listening to what you're saying, they're already thinking about how they're going to argue or counter what you're saying. In my opinion, people want a solidified, this is addiction definition, so that then they can contradict it and not fit the mold. When addiction has so many different variables that all have different values, like we don't even know all the variables probably that go into addiction. So for someone to come along and say addiction is this set of variables, that's it. Of course, your treatment or your solution is not going to accomplish solving or fixing those specific variables. So it sounded a lot better in my head when I was driving down the road, just trying to bring it back up. But
no,
it's the reason there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah.
So many different ways to get sober, because there are infinite number of variables as to how you got that way.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good example, like to build an airplane, like it has to be aerodynamic and it has to meet certain standards, right? In order for it to fly. You're not going to like build a spherical airplane with no wings and make it fly right now.
The reason why, tubular shaped wings don't work, Bernoulli's principle would not apply to that.
Right. But we've had enough success with creating aircraft to know what works. And we can be more successful creating them than not now.
Exactly.
Right. So we haven't had that success in treating addiction.
Yeah. We have basic principles that we think matter, but again, there's no proof to any of it.
Yeah.
We can highly correlate certain things, saying, you know, that, well, if you have a strong sense of self-love, you're probably not going to have an addiction problem. But that doesn't necessarily mean that those two are tied together. It just means, hey, this happens at the same time that this happens.
Right.
I mean, we can't prove that they're there. So that's one of the biggest things that kind of always rubbed me wrong about the big book, was how they define the alcoholic in there. And, you know, how I guess that's probably why it rubs me wrong, is this method of going through and, you know, the faults that they address in the steps correlate to a very specific way of life and way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that way of life and that way of thinking, then you're already going off the reservation as far as the big book is concerned, trying to apply it to a situation that was never meant for.
Right.
And so now we're one step removed. And so then, you know, we go further down the timeline and we're many steps removed from the original intent. But the biggest thing, you know, it's like, that's why I could never really identify with a lot of the concepts in there. But anyway.
No, yeah. No. I was going to look something up while you're talking, and I didn't get to it, but AA does say in the big book, these are suggestions.
Right. Yes.
And it does say that, and it does say this is what worked for us.
Yep.
So maybe you should try it. And that's how it reads to me.
Yeah.
For the most part.
That's a good point.
But that's not what you hear from a lot of people. And you mentioned the word gatekeepers. That's not what you hear from them. It is this way or nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you don't call your sponsor before you do anything, you are in trouble before you make any important decisions. I've heard that.
Yep.
I've heard that, not suggested, instructed.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. And it's like, so does my sponsor have to call his sponsor to answer my question before that can happen? And then when does it stop? Again.
No.
Yeah. And again, like, feathers are going to get ruffled when you talk about this stuff, because people take it so seriously, because it means so much to them. They're so emotionally attached to the 12 steps, and it's helped them. Yep. Those people that it really helped, they really are emotionally attached to it. And why shouldn't you be? If you drank like me and you made it and the 12 steps made you get there, I get why you're emotionally attached to it. Right? Same with church. If going to church pulled you out of this terrible hole and changed your life around, why wouldn't you be emotionally attached to that?
Exactly.
But you have to realize that when somebody says something that you feel is negative because it's not the group think that you're used to, that isn't an attack.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, in the way I think about it, it always goes back to identity. Is my identity has become so defined by, you know, the steps or by the program, that any attack on the steps of the program is by default an attack on me, which is exactly what you're saying.
Right.
Which is exactly why politics is such huge no to talk about. You cannot talk about politics without somebody getting pissed off, because people's identities are so attached to their political beliefs.
Yes.
It's the exact same problem.
Dude, something will come up on X about politics, and I'll like do a laugh emoji because it's funny.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh fuck, I just pissed off this side because I laughed at it. Now they think that I'm for this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, give me 15 minutes and I'll probably laugh emoji at the other side.
Exactly right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly right. They're both ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah.
none of you in the political world live in the real fucking world. You know, you're all in a bubble.
Yeah. I mean, if again, I just,
Yeah.
it that goes too, just like, well, somebody just gave us a thumbs up. So, uh, you know, again, the founding fathers, and I'm not going to make this political, long drawn out political thing, but they did a pretty good job, and they were pretty about as close as to a home run as we've ever seen, and it's just gotten worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a similar belief. I believe it was set up about as well as it could be. The only thing that, and I feel like some of the founding fathers, I feel like some of the really smart ones probably could have foreseen the state that we're in now, but our system of government was set up with the inherent belief that you will come in and do what is right for the country and not right for yourself, which is a difference. A lot of people think, oh, well, you're saying the individual is less than the collective. I was like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all, because I feel like you have to be able to make decisions in both circumstances where the individual sometimes trumps the collective and sometimes the collective trumps the individual. What I'm saying is your elected leader, when they take on that responsibility and that role of being your elected leader, their own personal wants now are subservient to the collective.
Yeah. Right.
And that is what has gone tits up.
Sure. Tits up. No. Yep, you're right.
I mean, that's just, yeah. And, you could use that same analogy for some of the gatekeepers of AA.
Yeah, you really, absolutely, dude.
I just thought about that.
Hold on, I want to look something up. Rich, we all love Rich on X. I think we all do. Well, maybe we all don't. There's no, never mind. He shared some hate comments and DMs that he's received. So we all don't. We can't group like that, Scott.
Yeah. When he starts doing the NA stuff, then
so he posted this. He said, "Find something you can form a strong opinion on. Once you own that opinion, learn to argue the opposite."
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. So
absolutely correct.
That's why I don't talk politics, because my knee-jerk reaction, and I'm like, okay, well, how would other people react to that? And I'm like, okay, well, that's a good point. So what if I said this? Yeah, but then I would say this.
Yeah.
So like, you know what? F it. I'm going to leave this people for the experts. The
circles,
the quote unquote experts.
When I am writing something for X or email or something like that, and it sounds, I tend to write because what I write, my content, the stuff that I deliver is for the person, kind of like somebody who is trying to think outside the box, or is thinking outside the box and is looking for answers outside the box. My content is specifically geared for the people who are outside the box. And one of the things I do when I'm writing is I sit here and I think about this, is like, well, how does AA, like, if I was trying to say the exact same thing, how would I be talking about this through the lens of AA? And there's so much overlap that the steps incorporate through, I shouldn't say through, but they incorporate, they go about it a different way. They use a different perspective and a different lens on it. And I was trying to think, there was one I was writing about this morning that I still in a draft folder. God, I can't remember what it was. Well, I'll think of it in a minute, but just what I was getting at was going to your point of Rich's comment of, once you learn one argument, learn to argument from the other side so that you really can understand the full situation. And so that's how I go about when I write stuff that I do, is I do that in my head first.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. And I think I do it sometimes. I'll throw something out there and people will be like, I'll throw it out there to get reaction because I'm not sure how I feel about things. And people are like, oh, you're just getting reaction. Well, how else am I supposed to learn? You know what I mean? Like, how am I supposed to get to what other people are thinking?
Yep.
You know, like we used to think we as a collective used to think some pretty stupid shit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, you know what I mean? And if people wouldn't have pushed the boundaries, you know, we wouldn't be where we are in some of these regards. So like, I feel like I dove into AA and I learned it pretty well.
Mhm.
And I think I could handle my own talking with people that have been in it for a long time. I think I could handle my own.
Way more than me, man. You
And so
way longer than I did.
and so I have that. And so I've challenged myself by asking some questions and posting some things and doing talks like these about if somebody was listening and they had a strong feeling about it, I would love to hear their opinion because at the end of the day, I want to be able to represent AA in the best light possible for the clients that walk into the door.
Yep.
You know, I want to leave my biases aside and say, here's the good things. And that's already what I do.
Yeah.
But when somebody comes to me and says, well, what about this? I don't like it because of this. If something's being misrepresented that I don't understand, I'm like, well, I don't think that's really what, you know, that might be what that person was saying, but I don't think that's the intent. And I've done that a lot of times. Like I went to the big book and I said, I don't really think that's what Bill W. was trying to say. This is what he said, and you can interpret it your way.
Yeah. That's so funny. You just made me think of I was doing the exact same thing today. So I got up this morning about 3:30, drove to Atlanta Hartsfield, got on a plane, flew to Louisville, Kentucky, hit up 3 apartment complexes for my job, and then flew back and drove back to the house. But I was at one of these apartment complexes, and, you know, I love getting the superintendents that are, you know, they've been doing it forever. You know, there's grizzly old dudes. Like, you can't really tell them anything.
Yeah.
No. And my favorite is as long as you're 6 feet from the edge of a fall hazard, you don't have to be tied off. I'm like, yes, in one specific instance, that's true, but that's neither here nor there, and it does not apply here. And then, you know, they want to argue. And so I'll go to the standards, to the book, and read it to them and say, look, here's the way I'm reading this. And I'm telling you, I know exactly how the OSHA inspector is going to read this. If you can make this make sense from your point of view, I'll be glad to think about changing my mind on it. I was like, but I'm not trying to tell you you're wrong. I'm just trying to tell you that it doesn't read like that. So, yeah, it's a good book.
Well, that's a good example too, dude, because those old timers, if you want to call them that, in construction, well, I've been doing it this way for 30 years.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Sit down, shut up, put your hard hat on, follow me.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you take your earplugs out of your ears and put them in your mouth?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Would that be something you should use that one on the next time you go to the job site? Like, I'm going to need you to take those earplugs out and shove them down your throat.
Yeah.
And just listen to me, okay? Yeah. Son.
You know, I did have we were working on the same job site. This is before I ever got into safety. And the guy was somebody who was arguing with somebody. He's like, take the damn earplugs, put them in your nose and shut your mouth. It took me a few minutes. I was like, what? Oh.
Yeah. I've used the one, all right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go, it's a cure for hiccups. It's like a hillbilly cure for hiccups. Go stick your head in a bucket of water 3 times, but only pull it out twice.
Yeah. That'll cure them for sure. They will definitely stop.
Safety. You got me thinking of safety now.
Hey, you want a job?
Well, this guy was grinding on this tank, and there was kind of a cover on it, and the control panel was on the opposite side of him, and so he's grinding on this tank to get the paint off.
Yeah.
So he's reaching in there where he can't see shit, and he ends up clipping the wires on the control panel. And they call me up. I was a boss at this time, so I went from safety into boss.
Yeah.
And then I pulled up there. He's like, well, it's like you say, because that was his saying. It's like you say. I was over there just going like hell, and I was just reaching up there trying to get it, and I didn't. Like I say, I didn't see that was over there, and it's like, you just shut their equipment down, dude, by grinding through their.
Yeah.
How did you not? Why would you grind somewhere where you can't see? Well,
Yeah.
it's like you say, like you go like fuck. That's what he would say. I'm over here going like fuck, trying to get the job done. I'm like, okay, and now the job shut down.
Yep.
Ugh.
And now this line's down.
He's the same guy, since I'm telling stories. He's the same guy that voluntarily told me this story. He's working up in a one-man scissor lift. Okay, painting away. And he's like, all of a sudden his stomach felt funny. And so he farted. But it wasn't just a fart, it was a shart.
Uh-huh.
And so he's like, so I'm up here in this lift. And it's like you say, I come down, I didn't know what to do. I ran over to the Porta-John and I used my 5-in-1 to cut my underwear off because I'd shit myself. And he's like, so I'm in the Porta-John with my balled up shitty underwear. He's like, I couldn't throw them just in the Porta-John because somebody would see them. So I got out of the Porta-John and I didn't know what to do with them. So I'm just wandering around with my underwear in my hand. And he's like, finally, it's like you say, I found this dumpster and I just lifted up the dumpster and threw them in there and got away as quick as I could. I'm like, thank you for voluntarily telling me that story.
Oh. Like, wash your hands?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't hear. Nope. I mean, I can already know that answer to that one. He's a good dude, super nice guy, but
Yeah.
God bless him. He's just going like fuck all the time,
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
See, this is what happens. Like, we get on those long ones with Lindsay. She likes to go a long time. And then about 45 minutes, I start telling shit pants stories. So,
That's all right.
I mean, we got 29 people watching on X,
Nice.
1 person on Facebook. So, and nobody's really commenting though. I wonder if it's harder to comment on X than it is on YouTube because we don't have.
I was wondering about that, and I wonder if when they comment on X, does it just go to the notifications where they're streaming it from?
Yeah, I don't. I've been checking my app to try to see, and I commented in there. So if you are watching from X and you have the chance just to throw a quick comment to see if we can see it, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, I got on my phone and said, hey, folks, in the comments of it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have to do some playing with it. And now we're up to 35 people, 36.
Right on.
So now we gotta really talk about something now. I mean,
oh my goodness. All right.
But maybe we could swing it back and wrap up what we were talking about and see what happens.
Bring it back to sobriety.
Yeah, bring it back to recovery and groupthink, and but groupthink too in construction is the same thing. You get these guys that like, we got to get the job done because that was, maybe we're starting to get out of the, those guys are starting to retire now, but
I had that conversation today too.
Yeah.
Guy was telling me about how he used to build homes out in the middle of the desert in Arizona, and nobody gave a shit what I did out there back then, but those days are long gone. I was like,
yeah.
Yes, sir, they are, and I'm glad you realize that.
Yeah, those days are long gone. Yeah, and if you would have fell off the roof working on a house in the middle of the desert,
yeah.
But
I mean, it was from groupthink. I mean, it doesn't. One of the things that the more I study and the more I learn, the more I realize how basic psychology applies to everything. And groupthink applies to every group that you can think of. I mean, no matter what kind of label you put on it, there's going to be norms and ways of doing things that group does simply because that's how that group's always done it. Whether it's right, the best, it's just how it's going to be. And so I think, one of my underlying principles of everything is just awareness. So until you're aware that you are participating in groupthink, you're never going to understand that it's affecting how you think, how you feel, how you behave. And so until you become aware of it, or once you become aware of it, then you can kind of see how it's influencing your decisions and your behavior. And so this is why I'm so big on and such a proponent of learning to observe your thoughts as a third party. When your thoughts come up, you need to be like, hey, you know, these thoughts aren't mine. They're just thoughts. I need to look at them, see where they came from. Do they really apply in this situation? Or is it just some bullshit from my subconscious based off my environment, my programming, my memories, my experiences in the past, my beliefs that I'm not even sure where they came from, but I believe them? How does this apply? And the more you do that, the more you can filter out the shit and actually apply what really matters to the situation. So, I mean, mindfulness 101. But
Yes. Yes. I mean, I do this since I've got out of treatment, and I've like my mind is coming back, dude.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting at work and somebody will say something, and my heart rate, blood pressure, whatever, I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I have to say, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Am I reacting on emotion? Am I reacting, too ridiculous? So
Yeah.
what really got me down and why I wasn't doing lives there for a couple weeks or whatever and doing podcasts is because I had mind fucked myself so bad that I didn't know what to think. Like,
Yeah.
I started second guessing myself on all the podcasts I did. Like, am I really helping people? Am I making things worse?
Yeah.
And, but the evidence would suggest that people are kind of enjoying this and people are getting this, but I was second guessing everything that I was saying. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I guess I'd rather do that. I'm kind of envious of the people, like some of these people that, like, when I hesitate to say shit, because like I mentioned on X, I've deleted more comments and posts probably than I've posted. Because it's like, I posted that thing that my counselor told me, and does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said by me right now? And I try to, it's almost automatic now. Like, I don't even have to say those things to me.
That's great.
So it's like having a reverse effect. Like, I don't know what's right anymore. And that's not a bad thing, because I feel like I'm open to, I don't feel like I'm over, like, what's the word? Not suggest,
Oversharing, over.
I don't think suggestions of new ideas just win me over easily. Like, I'm not so willing just to believe the new next thing.
Right.
I'm second guessing everything. I don't know what the word would be for that. But I'm open to hear it.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time when I thought about making like an atheist podcast and X, where that was going to be my thing. Because I've been through the Bible. I'm not an expert, but I would say that I've read it more than a lot of my religious family members and friends have, and I know more about it than they do. And I'm not saying that I'm just saying that I have experience in it. And it was something that I really got into, but I didn't see the productivity of doing that, because at the end of the day, I don't really care what you believe.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'd be willing to be convinced otherwise. So I'm not like hardcore one way, right?
And that right there is a perfect example of I think I do it kind of almost subconsciously, automatically now, but just about any decision I make kind of gets filtered through the question of, does this get me what I want, or does this make me right? And that's a perfect example of, you deciding not to do it because it came down to, is this really going to affect change? Is this going to give me what I want, which is to affect change, which is what it sounds like you want, or does this just make me right? And kind of going back to the whole conversation there, personally, I think one of the reasons why you got down is because the ego wants to be right. And so if the easiest way for the ego to be right is to predict the future and then keep you from, or, make that prediction come true. And so it basically says, you know what? you're not really doing a good job at what, at this podcasting. You're not really making anybody change. You're not helping anybody. So you know what? Just don't worry about it. Don't do it. We're just, lay low. It's not really making a difference. So the ego gets to be right because the ego created a scenario and then talked you into it. And so now, because you're not doing it, the ego's right. So
Creating your own reality.
Creating your own reality.
Because I would just focus on the negative comments.
Yeah.
And every comment that was neutral, I took as negative.
Yep.
And I was absolutely doing that.
Yeah. And so your perception was one of, I'm not making a difference. So you're perceiving those neutral comments as negative. So therefore, I'm not actually affecting any change. So why bother?
Yeah. Yep. Look at that. Made it full circle.
Brought it back around, baby.
Dude, we are good. And by that, I mean you are, because you took my comment and brought it back home, baby. Woo!
No, that's just
now the ego's going the other way. We are the best.
Yeah. Love it. So yeah, that's what I say. The spirituality. So the journey for me started off with trying to really discern my religious beliefs, which ended up saying, you know what? Let's set all of that junk aside and let's look at the principles and the spiritual beliefs. And so that kind of brought in a bunch of psychology as well, which I was already fascinated with psychology because of alcoholism and everything like that. So it's just how I think now. And I'm a geek about it. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
The only thing I would suggest to people is if you think that, you're right and never wrong, that might be dangerous thinking.
Yeah.
But do what you got to do. There are a lot of people, and I was talking about this with Miley tonight, like the people that just seem to be the most convinced that their way and their thoughts and their thinking are the right way. The appearance is they get easier treatment. Like, and I'm just talking here, like,
yeah,
in the work environments that I've been in, with the weaker management.
Yep.
The loud, annoying people that do the less and complain the most, it appears that they have an easier time. When you have weak management, they'll go after the people that they know that will listen, and they'll say, hey, no, you did this wrong. And the people they don't want to deal with will have somebody else fix it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just elaborating on the conversation that we had.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get it.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Something up that I was going to say. Oh, whoa. Hey, congratulations, broker. Oh, Natalie. Okay. I was like, that's a cool name for a chick. Oh, then I see it's
Natalie Broker. Yeah. And so.
Oh, wow. I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah. Yeah. So would I. Yeah. The podcast door is always open, Natalie. If, that would be one hell of a story. She continues on. She was out for 5 years.
Yeah. To me that there's a lot of learning that could be done from that one.
Yeah.
Clean and sober for 30, and then because I don't know about you, but I feel like there's this. Even though all the old timers in the room say, "Oh yeah, you can relapse at any day," I always felt like there was this energy coming from them by them saying that. It's like, "Oh yeah, you can relapse at any day." Is I'm kind of untouchable because I've got 20 plus years.
Right.
Know that you can relapse at any day.
Like, you can relapse at any day. Not we could relapse.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because if it's a lifelong thing, then we could relapse at any day, not you. And that's where the trouble comes.
That's exactly right. Man, you know what? And actually, in response to what I posted earlier about you are 100% responsible for all your addictions and traumas and emotional blockages and limiting beliefs. It's 100% your responsibility. Somebody responded and had issue with the word responsibility. And I think before I could even get the response out, it's like in NA, we say, we're not responsible for our addiction, we're responsible for our recovery. I was like, well, I don't want this to sound harsh, but in NA, they're using that word responsibility wrong.
Yeah.
Words have meanings, and responsibility does not imply fault. Responsibility means it is your job now to take what you have and work with it. And my example back to her was, if you were born without an arm or you were born blind, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to learn how to get around that and adapt to life if you want to be successful at life.
Yeah.
And so this idea that we look outside of ourselves, you know, I don't know how to say this without really sounding like an asshole, but
Yeah.
I feel like when you don't want to take responsibility for it, it keeps you trapped in a victimhood status. You're looking for an external reason for why you are doing something. And my go-to example for this is that fucking phrase, well, I'm an alcoholic, I think that way. You know, I can't help it, I'm an alcoholic. I'm like, motherfucker, yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's an excuse. Okay? That's an excuse. You don't want to do the work to actually go and change the way you think. You just want to excuse your thinking. But
it's the disease talking.
Yeah. It wasn't me. That was my disease.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I, you know, part of the reason why humans in general, in my opinion, get in such psychological, emotional trouble is because of the words we use. You know, our words limit us because we don't think about exactly what they mean and what we say. Because when you are saying something about yourself is hearing those words, and yourself believes yourself. I mean, I can't tell you how many times as a kid, I could either, if I didn't want to go to school in the morning, I could tell myself that I was sick enough to get myself to believe it, and I could have a fever. Or if I really was sick and wanted to go do something, I'd be like, I'm fine. It'll be okay. I'm not sick. I really want to go to this baseball game. I'm not sick. I mean, you believe it. Your body will change based off your beliefs. And so those words control what you believe. So
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've been trying to manifest the last few days.
Manifest.
Yeah. Do what?
What did you say? Manifest what?
I've just been trying to manifest in general. Like when I go to bed, I will say, you know, I'm going to sleep well tonight, or I am sleeping. No, I don't say I'm going to.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned is you don't say, you know, you put it on the universe that it's happened. So
Yeah.
I am sleeping good tonight. I am sleeping good tonight.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I will be relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say it over and over again. I'm not going to be pissed off. And I'll tell you what, last night was one of the best sleeps that I had last night.
Awesome.
And I think there's something to that. We can convince ourselves of a lot of fucking things. Oh my God, let me tell you this story. Talking about.
Yeah, we can.
So, okay. So listen, one thing too, I wanted to ask Natalie, but I'll get back to it. So a friend of mine that I used to work with, his mom had some issues mentally, but we all do, right? And I didn't mean that as a negative thing, but she had some things going on.
Right.
She started telling everybody that she was pregnant. And I don't remember how old she was, late 40s, early 50s, whatever. And she kept telling everybody she's pregnant. And they're like, you're not pregnant. You can't get pregnant. You know, for whatever reason. I don't remember if she had things removed or her age or whatever. And she's like, no, I'm pregnant. And this went on for a while. And after a while, her stomach started to bloat up and she looked pregnant, to the point that she got an ultrasound and there was nothing there, but she was still convinced that she was pregnant. And then one day it just went away, and she just decided she wasn't pregnant anymore. So I'm not saying that our mind is a powerful thing. And I truly believe that we can use very little of it. We can use quite a bit of it, but I think if we could really harness our thoughts like that, it can do amazing freaking things. I believe that.
Yes.
And so when you have something else going on it's hindering you, who knows what can happen. So she was so convinced that her brain could tell her body to act this way.
Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, it's a very interesting story. And
well, so I've talked about I can't remember if you were on the show. We've talked about it, but Peter Crone. I've talked. You heard me? His name. So Peter Crone is a phenomenal person to listen to if you're remotely at all interested in how your thoughts and your beliefs can affect you in all areas of life. Phenomenal stuff. But I mean, he's not some spiritual guru or anything. He helps you find these emotional blocks, limiting beliefs that you've had, and help you change them. And he's got a whole bunch of similar stories like that. The one that comes to mind is in one of the masterminds he did. It's like a 5-week long course, but he had a lady in there who had like stage 4 endometriosis, just massive pain all the time. And she had, I can't remember the exact story, but she had some crazy, just very deeply wounded emotional trauma from her childhood with her parents. And she was able to kind of re-heal that and get over it finally. And she knew it was there, but she didn't realize the effect that she was actually carrying all that that energy forward into her life and other areas of her life. So he was able to help her get to that belief and get over it. And the next time she went to the doctor, like her endometriosis was gone.
No shit.
I mean, I'll have to send you one of his podcasts.
Wow.
One day when you're bored. So this is kind of why I've really recently taken a strong kind of nosedive into finding these limiting beliefs and these emotional wounds. And I've seen some kind of crazy personal growth, but like in just with Lindsay, with talking with her about all the stuff she's been doing her podcast on with her past relationship stuff, just kind of being in that frame of mind, we've been able to kind of uncover some things. And I think that's why she's been able to kind of move forward. She's realized some stuff from her past and her own, healing journey that she needed to go through that just finally kind of started clicking. And so it seems like she's on a better path now. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. I know she was hurting for a while there.
Yeah, but now she's so open and relaxed talking about it, without talking too much about what goes on behind the scenes. Her messages have changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. The energy from them. Yeah.
I'll put something on X if anybody listening is interested in Peter Crone. I'll send you a few things that you might like, but very, very, like if you're at all interested in it, you'll find it kind of probably fascinating. So.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to checking it out. And just also too, to kind of wrap up here, we talked about the invisible lid with the fleas. Make sure to check that out. We talked about I believe it was 1966, the 5 monkey experiment. We talked about that. That's something else to look into. We also talked in the past about Rat Park. I've been showing that TED Talk at my groups the last 2 days, and got some interesting conversations out of Rat Park. And just a quick, before I let everybody go, Rat Park is where they put a rat by itself in a cage with nothing to do, with 2 water bottles. One was laced with either heroin or cocaine, and the other one was just a regular water bottle. And the rat, when he was by himself, or when because there was multiple rats, they tend to use the cocaine and heroin laced water and even overdose and die. But then they created what they called Rat Park, which was like a rat theme park with all kinds of stuff to do, wheels and tunnels and other rats. What's that?
The Disneyland for rats.
Right. And so they had the same water bottles, and they almost never used the cocaine bottle, almost exclusively just the regular one. They didn't want it because they had purpose and they had something to do. And, I see a lot of blank faces in treatment because these people are early on and they're going through the court system or whatever. And it's really hard to, well, I got purpose. I got kids, I got purpose. I, I do this or I do that. And it's like, yeah, but it's not that bonding. The guy called it bonding in the TED Talk. He's like, he doesn't like to call it addiction. He likes to call it bonding.
Yeah.
So we bond with the substance. We need to bond with other things, people, places, and things. Like I bonded with the podcast. That's what's keeping me from going back to the way I was.
Really quick, since you use purpose, one of the things that I realized and that I tried have helped a few people with, but it really helped me a lot, was exactly what you just said. Somebody says, "Oh yeah, my kids are my purpose," right? So take a single mom who's got an addiction issue, and you're telling her that she needs to find purpose. She's like, "Well, my purpose is my kids. I've got to provide a life for my kids." So, God forbid something happens to her kids. What's her purpose now?
Mm-hmm.
So your purpose is not taking care of your kids or caring for your parents or providing for your spouse. That is not your purpose in life. Just like I used to think that my purpose in life was to be a great dad. No, being a great dad is something I strive to do. My purpose in life that I feel like we touched on this a couple days ago, you and I both kind of said the same thing, but I feel like my purpose in life has been to help people understand complex topics in an easy, to understand way, to just break them down, but to help people and to kind of coach people. I think that's kind of why I'm here, is to understand this whole addiction thing. And I think that's part of the reason why I had to go through it was to understand it. And so purpose is something that fires you up from the inside, that you can do. If everything in life was taken from you, you still have a purpose and a sense of direction.
Yeah, so this just came to me. Let me throw this out at you.
Yeah.
Purpose is what and who you are, no matter who is around you.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. That can't be a parent, because your kids aren't always going to be around you. So that can't be your purpose.
Yeah.
So I am the sober heathen, whether my kids are here or Miley's here or whatever. Not that I'm a recovery coach. I'm a guy that wants to spread recovery or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my purpose. But yeah, kids, God forbid something happens to them, but kids are going to grow up and they're going to get married. So now you spend, 18, 20 some years on your kids, and then they're gone. Then what?
Yeah. So, being a parent is one of the hats you wear, and it is, that sounds like you're taking away something from being a parent, but it's not. It is one of your responsibilities. It's one of the things that you have to do, and that hopefully you enjoy and try to be the best you can at it. But it's not what drives you.
Yeah.
It can't be what. I shouldn't say it's not what drives you. It can't be what drives you. Because just like you said, once the kids are gone, now you have no fire in the engine anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing there.
Yep. This is good. And we're still at 43 people, but man, it's late. Yeah, 43 people watching. Thanks everybody for watching. This is really fun with Adam. And
like I said, if you're on live, give us a live in the comments, or if you're watching on replay.
Yeah, that way we know what's going on. And if even if you got to come back and do it from X at a later time, just let one of us know how you listened. So and always looking for topics, So
hit us up. I'm open. My messages are open anytime.
Ditto. Well, thanks, Adam, my friend. Travel safe if you're traveling again tomorrow, and we'll do this again soon. No,
I got Friday office work on my treadmill desk here.
All right. Hey, Max Campbell. Thank you for listening, my friend. It's really nice to see your name pop up. An old friend. I played baseball. Max Campbell. Yeah, I played baseball with his brother. I coached Max.
Cool.
His mom did a lot for me when I got home from treatment, driving me around. So that was really awesome, Max. Thanks for listening, buddy. Love you too.
Awesome.
All right. Good night, guys.
Adios.